Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Magnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Svapadantikam. Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yutapatakamalам Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrijatam Sahaganaragunatan Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Visakanvitamscha हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधो दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांता राधा कांत नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरंगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वंशकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानं पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमं विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामी नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna Vishnu Prabhu, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Pranam, Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Okay, so today we read the chapter 47. Krishna pleases his devotees. For days together, Krishna heard from Uddhava all the details of his visit to Vrindavan, of the condition of his father and mother, and of the gopis and the cowherd boys. Lord Krishna was fully satisfied that Uddhava was able to solace them by his instruction and by the message delivered to them. Lord Krishna then decided to go to the house of Kubja, the hunchback woman, who had pleased him by offering him sandalwood when he was entering the city of Mathura. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna always tries to please his devotees, and the devotees try to please Krishna. As the devotees always think of Krishna within their hearts, so Krishna also thinks of his devotees within himself. When Kubja was converted into a beautiful society girl, she wanted Krishna to come to her place so that she could try to receive and worship him in her own way. Society girls generally try to satisfy their clients by offering their bodies to the men to enjoy. But this society girl, Kubja, was actually captivated by a lust to satisfy her senses with Krishna. When Krishna desired to go to the house of Kubja, he certainly had no desire for sense gratification. By supplying the sandalwood pulp to Krishna, Kubja had already satisfied his senses. On the plea of her sense gratification, he decided to go to her house, not actually for sense gratification, but to turn her into a pure devotee. Krishna is always served by many thousands of goddesses of fortune. Therefore, he has no need to satisfy his senses by going to a society girl. But as he is kind to everyone, he decided to go there. It is said that the moon does not withhold its shining from the courtyard of a crooked person. Similarly, Krishna's transcendental mercy is never denied to anyone, whether one has rendered service unto him through lust, anger, fear, or pure love. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is stated that if one wants to serve Krishna and at the same time wants to satisfy his own lusty desires, Krishna will handle it so that the devotee forgets his lusty desires and becomes fully purified and constantly engaged in the service of the Lord. In order to fulfill his past promise, Krishna along with Uddhava went to the house of Kubja. When Krishna reached her house, he saw that it was completely decorated in a way to excite the lusty desires of a man. This suggested that there were many nude pictures, on top of which were canopies and flags embroidered with pearl necklaces, along with comfortable beds and cushioned chairs. The rooms were provided with flower garlands, and were nicely scented with incense and sprinkled with scented water, and the rooms were illuminated by nice lamps. When Kubja saw that Lord Krishna had come to her house in order to fulfill his promised visit, she immediately got up from the chair to receive him. Accompanied by her many girlfriends, she began to talk with him with great respect and honor. After offering him a nice place to sit, she worshipped Lord Krishna in a manner just suitable to her position. Uddhava was similarly received by Kubja and her girlfriends, but he was not on an equal level with Krishna, and he simply sat down on the floor. Without wasting time, as one does in such situations, Krishna entered the bedroom of Kubja. In the meantime, Kubja took her bath and smeared her body with sandalwood pulp. She dressed herself with nice garments, valuable jewelry, ornaments, and flower garlands. Chewing betel nut and other intoxicating eatables, and spraying herself with scents, she appeared before Krishna. Her smiling glance and moving eyes were full of feminine bashfulness as she stood gracefully before Lord Krishna, who is known as Madhava, the husband of goddess of fortune. When Krishna saw that Kubja was hesitating to come before him, he immediately caught hold of her hand, which was decorated with bangles. With great affection, he dragged her beside him and made her sit by his side. Simply by having previously supplied pulp of sandalwood to the Supreme Lord Krishna, Kubja became free from all sinful reactions and eligible to enjoy with him. She then took Krishna's lotus feet and placed them on her breasts, which were burning with the blazing fire of lust. By smelling the fragrance of Krishna's lotus feet, she immediately became relieved of all lusty desires. She was thus allowed to embrace Krishna with her two arms and thus mitigate her long-cherished desire to have Krishna as a visitor in her house. It is stated in the Bhagavad Gita that without being freed from all material sinful reactions, one cannot be engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Simply by supplying sandalwood pulp to Krishna, Kubja was thus rewarded. She was not trained to worship Krishna in any other way. Therefore, she wanted to satisfy him by her profession. It is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita that the Lord can be worshipped even by one's profession, if it is sincerely offered for the pleasure of the Lord. Kubja then told Krishna, "My dear friend, kindly remain with me at least for a few days. Enjoy with me, you and your lotus-eyed friend. I cannot leave you immediately. Please grant my request." As stated in the Vedic versions, the Supreme Personality of Godhead has multi-potencies. According to expert opinion, Kubja represents the Purusha Shakti potency of Krishna, just as Srimati Radharani represents his Chit Shakti potency. Although she requested Krishna to remain with her for some days, Krishna politely impressed upon her that it was not possible for him to stay. Krishna visits this material world occasionally, whereas his connection with the spiritual world is eternal. Krishna is always present either in the Vaikuntha planets or in the Goloka Vrindavan planet. The technical term for his presence in the spiritual world is Prakata Lila. After satisfying Kubja with sweet words, Krishna returned to his place along with Uddhava. There is a warning in the Srimad Bhagavatam that Krishna is not very easily worshipped because he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the chief among the Vishnu Tattvas. To worship Krishna or have association with him is not very easy job. Specifically, there is a warning for devotees who are attracted to Krishna through conjugal love. It is not good for them to desire to have sense gratification by direct association with Krishna. Actually, the activities of sense gratification are material. In the spiritual world, there are symptoms like kissing and embracing, but there is no sense gratification process as it exists in the material world. This warning is specifically for those known as Sahajiya, who take it for granted that Krishna is an ordinary human being. They desire to enjoy sex life with him in a perverted way. In a spiritual relationship, sense gratification is most insignificant. Anyone who desires a relationship of perverted sense gratification with Krishna must be considered to be less intelligent. His mentality requires to be reformed. Hare Krishna. Okay, anyone can continue from here.
Hare Krishna. After a while, Krishna fulfilled his promise to visit Akrura at his house. Akrura was in relationship with Krishna as his servitor, and Krishna wanted to get some service from him. He went there accompanied by both Lord Balarama and Uddhava. When Krishna, Balarama, and Uddhava were approaching the house of Akrura, Akrura came forward, embraced Uddhava, and offered respectful obeisances, bowing down before Lord Krishna and Balarama. Krishna, Balarama, and Uddhava offered him obeisance in turn and were offered appropriate sitting places by Akrura. When all were comfortably seated, Akrura washed their feet and sprinkled the water on his head. Then he offered nice flowers and sandalwood pulp in regular worship. All three of them became very satisfied by the behavior of Akrura. Akrura then bowed down before Krishna, putting his head on the ground. Then, keeping Krishna's lotus feet on his lap, Akrura began to gently massage them. When Akrura was fully satisfied in the presence of Krishna and Balarama, his eyes became filled with tears of love for Krishna, and he began to offer his prayers as follows: My dear Lord Krishna, it is very kind of you to have killed Kamsa and his associates. You have delivered the whole family of the Yadu dynasty from the greatest calamity. Your saving of the great Yadu dynasty will always be remembered by them. My dear Lord Krishna and Balarama, you are the original personality from whom everything has emanated. You are the original cause of all causes. You have inconceivable energy and you are all pervasive. But for yourself, there is no other cause and effect, gross or subtle. You are the supreme Brahman realized by the study of the Vedas. By your inconceivable energy, you are actually visible before us. You create this cosmic manifestation by your own potencies and you enter into it yourself. As the five material elements earth, water, fire, air, and sky are distributed in everything, manifested by different kinds of bodies, so you alone enter into different varieties of bodies created by your own energy. You enter the body as the individual soul as well as independently as the super soul. The material body is created by your inferior energy. The living entities, individual souls, are part and parcel of you, and the super soul is your localized representation. This material body, the living entity, and the super soul constitute an individual living being, but originally they are all different energies of the one supreme Lord. In the material world, you are creating, maintaining, and dissolving the whole manifestation by interaction of three qualities, namely goodness, passion, and ignorance. You are not implicated by the activities of those material qualities because your supreme knowledge is never overcome, as is the case with the individual living entity. As the Supreme Lord enters into this material creation, and thus the creation, maintenance, and destruction are going on in their due course, so the part and parcel living entity enters the material elements and has his material body created for him. The difference between the living entity and the Lord is that the living entity is part and parcel of the Supreme Personal. Uh, the difference between the living entity and the Lord is that the living entity is part and parcel of the Supreme Lord and has the tendency to be overcome by the interaction of material qualities. Krishna, the Parabrahman or the Supreme Brahman, being always situated in full knowledge, is never overcome by such activities. Therefore, Krishna's name is Achyuta, meaning he who never falls down. Krishna's knowledge of spiritual identity is never overcome by material action, whereas the identity of the minute part and parcel living entities is prone to be overcome by material action. The individual living entity are eternally part and parcel of God. As minute sparks of the original fire, Krishna, they have the tendency to become extinguished. Akrura continued, the less intelligent class of men misunderstand your transcendental form to be also made of material energy. That concept is not at all applicable to you. Actually, you are all spiritual, and there is no difference between you and your body. Because of this, there is no question of your being conditioned or liberated. You are ever liberated in any condition of life. Uh, in any condition of life. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, only the fools and rascals consider you to be an ordinary man. To consider your lordship to be one of us is conditioned by the material nature is a mistake due to our imperfect knowledge. When people deviate from the original knowledge of the Vedas, they try to identify the ordinary living entities with your lordship. Your lordship has appeared on this earth in your original form in order to re-establish the real knowledge that the living entities are neither one with nor equal to the supreme God. My dear Lord, you are always situated in uncontaminated goodness. Shuddha Sattva. Your appearance is necessary to re-establish actual Vedic knowledge, as opposed to the atheistic philosophy which tries to establish that God and living entities are one and the same. My dear Lord Krishna, this time you have appeared in the home of Vasudeva as his son, along with your plenary expansion, Sri Balarama. Your mission is to kill all the atheistic royal families, along with their huge military strength. You have advented yourself to minimize the overburden of the world, and in order to fulfill this mission, you have glorified the dynasty of Yadu, appearing in the family as one of its members. My dear Lord, today my home has become purified by your presence. I have become the most fortunate person in the world, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is worshipable by all different kinds of demigods, pitris, living entities, kings, and emperors, and who is the supersoul of everything, has come into my home. The water of his lotus feet is purifying the three worlds, and now he has kindly come to my place. Who is there in the three worlds among actually learned men who will not take shelter of your lotus feet and surrender unto you? Who, knowing well that no one can be as affectionate as you are to your devotees, is so foolish that he will decline to become your devotee. Throughout the Vedic literature, it is declared that you are the dearmost friend of every living entity. This is confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita. Suhridam Sarva Bhutana. You are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, completely capable of fulfilling the desires of your devotees. You are the real friend. You are the real friend of everyone. In spite of giving yourself to your devotees, you are never depleted of your original potency. Your potency neither decreases nor increases in volume. My dear Lord, it is very difficult for even the great mystic yogas and demigods to ascertain your yogis and demigods to ascertain your movement. You cannot be approached by them, and yet out of your causeless mercy, you have kindly consented to come to my home. This is the most auspicious moment in the journey of my material existence. By your grace only, I can just understand that my home, my wife, my children, and my worldly possessions are all different bonds to material existence. Please cut the knot and save me from this entanglement of false society, friendship, and
Hare Krishna. Who wants to continue? More. Okay, I can read also. Lord Sri Krishna was very pleased by Akrura's offering of prayers. His smile was captivating Akrura more and more. The Lord replied him as follows: My dear Akrura, in spite of your submissiveness, I consider you to be my superior, on the level with my father and teacher and most well-wishing friend. You are therefore worshipable by me, and since you are my uncle, I am always to be protected by you. I desire to be maintained by you because I am one of your own children. Apart from this filial relationship, you are always to be worshipped. Anyone who desires good fortune must offer his respectful obeisances unto personalities like you. You are more than the demigods. People go to worship the demigods when they are in need of some sense gratification. The demigods offer benediction to their devotees after being worshipped by them. But the devotee, like Akrura, is always ready to offer the greatest benediction to the people. A saintly person or devotee is free to offer benediction to everyone, whereas the demigods can offer benediction only after being worshipped. One can take advantage of the place of pilgrimage only after going there. By worshipping the particular demigod, it takes a long time for fulfillment of the desires, but any persons like you, my dear Akrura, can immediately fulfill all the desires of the devotees. My dear Akrura, you are always our friend and well-wisher. You are always ready to act for our welfare. Kindly, therefore, go to Hastinapura and see what arrangement has been made for the Pandavas. Krishna was very anxious to know. Krishna was very anxious to know about the sons of Pandu, because at a very young age they had lost their father. Being very friendly to his devotees, Krishna was anxious to know about them, and therefore he deputed Akrura to go to Hastinapura and get the information of the real situation. Krishna continued to say, I have heard that after the death of King Pandu, his young sons Yudhishthira, Bhima, Arjuna, Nakula, and Sahadeva, along with their widowed mother, have come under the charge of Dhritarashtra, who is to look after them as their guardian. But I have also heard that Dhritarashtra is not only blind from birth, but also blind in his affection for his cruel son, Duryodhana. The five Pandavas are the sons of King Pandu, but Dhritarashtra, due to his plans and designs, is not favorably disposed towards the Pandavas. Kindly go there and study how Dhritarashtra is dealing with the Pandavas. On receipt of your report, I shall consider how to favor the Pandavas. In this way, the Supreme Person of Godhead Krishna ordered Akrura to go to Hastinapura, and then he returned home, accompanied by Balaram and Uddhava. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 47th chapter of Krishna. Krishna pleases his devotees. Hare Krishna, yes, Prabhu. Arth Prabhu, if you want to read, you can also read. We usually read like one page after each other, but sometimes we read some extra, and yeah. Usually when we are done reading, we just say Hare Krishna, and then anyone can continue from there, where it's left.
Okay, I'll give it a try.
Okay, yes, Prabhu. Let's see how long this. Yeah, we can read this chapter also. Haribol.
Haribol. Thus being ordered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, Akura visited Hastinapur. Hastinapur is said to be the site of what is now New Delhi. The part of New Delhi which is still known as Indraprasth is accepted by the people in general as the old capital of Pandavas. The very name Hastinapur suggests that there were many Hastis or elephants because the Pandavas kept many elephants in the capital. It was called Hastinapur. Keeping elephants is very expensive job. To keep many elephants, therefore the kingdom must be very rich, and Hastinapur was full of elephants, horses, chariots, and other opulences. When Akrura reached Hastinapur, he saw that the capital was full of all kinds of opulences. The king of Hastinapur were taken to be the ruling kings of the world. Their fame was widely spread throughout the entire kingdom, and their administration was conducted under good counsel of learned Brahmins. After seeing the very opulent capital city, Akrura met King Dhritarashtra. He also saw grandfather Bhishma sitting with him. After meeting them, he went to see Vidura and then Vidura's sister Kunti. One after another, he saw the son of Somadatta and the king of Bhalika, Dronacharya, Kripacharya, Karna, and Suyodhana. Suyodhana is another name of Dronacharya. He saw the five Pandava brothers and other friends, relatives living in the city. Akrura was known as the son of Gandhi, so whoever he met was very pleased to receive him. He was offered a good seat at his receptions, and he inquired all about his relatives, welfares, and other activities. Since he deputed by Lord Krishna to visit Hastinapur, it is understood that he was very intelligent in studying a diplomatic situation. Dhritarashtra was very unlawful occupying the throne after the death of King Pandu. Despite the presence of Pandu's son, Akrura wanted to study the whole situation by remaining there. He could understand very well uh, that ill-motivated Dhritarashtra was much inclined in favor of his own sons. In fact, Dhritarashtra had already usurped the kingdom, was now instigating and planning to dispose of the five Pandava brothers. Akrura knew also that all the sons of Dhritarashtra, headed by Duryodhan, were very crooked politicians. Dhritarashtra did not act in accordance with the good instruction given by Bhishma and Vidura. but he was being conducted by the ill instructions of such person as Karna, Shakuni, and others. Akrura decided to stay in Hastinapur for a few months to study the whole political situation. Gradually, Akrura learned from Kunti and Vidura that Dhritarashtra was very intolerant and envious of the five Pandava brothers because of their extraordinary learning in the military science and their greatly developed bodily strength. They acted as the true chivalrous heroes, exhibited all the good qualities of Kshatriyas, and were very responsible for princes. Always thinking of the welfare of the citizens, Akrura also learned that the envious Dhritarashtra, in consultation with his ill-advised son, had tried to kill the Pandavas by poisoning them. Akrura happened to be one of the cousins of Kunti. Therefore, after meeting him, she began to inquire about her paternal relatives, thinking of her birthplace. She began to cry. She asked Akrura, excuse me.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu, for reading. So who wants to read next?
Went interruption. I can read if you say
Okay,
so.
Prabhu. Haribol.
Okay, Haribol. Does Krishna, who is the supreme personality of Godhead, who is very affectionate to his devotees, remember my sons? Does Balrama remember us? Inside herself, Kunti felt like a she deer in the midst of tigers. And actually, her position was like that. After the death of her husband, King Pandu, she was supposed to take care of the five Pandava children. But Dhritarashtra was always planning to kill them. She was certainly living as a poor innocent animal in the midst of several tigers. Being a devotee of Lord Krishna, she was always thinking of him and expecting that one day Krishna would come and save them from their dangerous position. She inquired from Akrura whether Krishna proposed to come to advise the fatherless Pandavas how to get free of the intriguing policy of Dhritarashtra and his sons. By talking with Akrura about all these affairs, she felt herself helpless and began to exclaim, my dear Krishna, you are the supreme mystic, the super soul of the universe. You are the real well wisher of the whole universe. My dear Govinda, at this time you are far away from me, yet I pray to surrender unto your lotus feet. At the present moment, I am very much grief stricken with my five fatherless sons. I can fully understand that, but for your lotus feet, there is no shelter or protection. Your lotus feet can deliver all aggrieved souls. Because you are the supreme personality of Godhead, one can be saved from clutches of repeated birth and death by your mercy only. My dear Krishna, you are the supreme pure one and the super soul and the master of all yogis. What can I say? I can simply offer my respectful obeisance unto accept me as your fully surrendered devotee. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu. Hmm. Can Bhagaram Prabhu or Karti Prabhu read? Or Deepansh Prabhu also? Okay, Haribol. I can also read. Although Krishna was not present before her, Kunti offered her prayers to him as if she were in his presence face to face. This is possible for anyone following in the footsteps of Kunti. Krishna does not have to be physically present everywhere. He is actually present in everywhere by spiritual potency, and one simply has to surrender unto him sincerely. When Kunti was offering her prayers very feelingly to Krishna, she could not check herself and began to cry loudly after Akrura. Vidura was also present, and both Akrura and Vidura became very sympathetic to the mother of the Pandavas. They began to solace her by glorifying her sons, Yudhishthira, Arjuna, and Bhima. They pacified her, saying that her sons were extraordinarily powerful. She should not be perturbed about them, since they were born of great demigods, Yamaraj, Indra, and Vayu. Akrura decided to return and report of the extreme circumstances in which he found Kunti and her five sons. He first wanted to give good advice to Dhritarashtra, who was so favorably inclined toward his own son and unfavorably inclined towards the Pandavas. When Kunti and Dhritarashtra were sitting among friends and relatives, Akrura began to address him, calling him Varchitravirya. Varchitravirya means the son of Vichitravirya. Vichitravirya was the name of the father of Dhritarashtra, but Dhritarashtra was not actually the begotten son of Vichitravirya. He was the begotten son of Vyasadeva. Formerly, it was the system that if a man were unable to beget a child, his brother could beget a child in the womb of his wife. That system is now forbidden in this age of Kali. Akrura called Dhritarashtra Varchitravirya sarcastically because he was not actually begotten by his father. He was the son of Vyasadeva. When a child was begotten in the wife by the husband's brother, then child was claimed by the husband, but of course the child was not begotten by the husband. This sarcastic remark pointed out that Dhritarashtra was falsely claiming the throne of hereditary grounds. Actually, the son of Pandu was the rightful king, and in the presence of Pandu's son, the Pandavas, Dhritarashtra should not have occupied the throne. Akrura then said, "My dear son of Vichitravirya, you have unlawfully usurped the throne of the Pandavas. Anyway, somehow or other, you are now on the throne. Therefore, I beg to advise you to please rule the kingdom on moral and ethical principles. If you do so and try to teach your subjects in that way, then your name and fame will be perpetual." Akrura hinted that although Dhritarashtra was ill-treating his nephews, the Pandavas, they happened to be his subjects. Even if you treat them not as the owners of the throne, but as your subjects, you should impartially think of their welfare as though they were your own sons. But if you do not follow this principle and act in just the opposite way, then you will be unpopular among your subjects, and in the next life you will have to live in a hellish condition. I therefore hope you will treat your sons and the sons of Pandu equally. Akrura hinted that if Dhritarashtra did not treat the Pandavas and his sons as equals, then surely there would be a fight between the two camps of cousins. Since the Pandavas' cause was just, they would come out victorious, and the sons of Dhritarashtra would be killed. This was a prophecy told by Akrura to Dhritarashtra. Akrura further advised Dhritarashtra, "In this material world, no one can remain as an eternal companion to another. By chance only we assemble together in the family, in the society, in the community, or in the nation. But at the end, because every one of us has to give up the body, we must be separated. One should not therefore be unnecessarily affectionate toward family members." The Dhritarashtra affection was also unlawful, and did not show much intelligence. In plain words, Akrura hinted to Dhritarashtra that his staunch family affection was due to his gross ignorance of facts. Although we appear to be combined together in a family, society, or nation, each one of us has an individual destiny. Everyone takes birth according to individual past work. Therefore, everyone has to individually enjoy or suffer the results of his own karma. There is no possibility of improving one's destiny by corporate living. Sometimes it happens that one's father accumulates wealth by illegal ways, and the son takes away the money. Although it is hard earned by the father, it is just like a small fish in the ocean who eats the material body of the large old fish. One ultimately cannot accumulate wealth illegally for the gratification of family, society, community, or nation. That many great empires which developed in the past are no longer existing because their wealth was squandered away by later descendants in an illustration of this principle. One who does not know the subtle love of fruitive activities and thus gives up the principle of moral and ethical principles only carries with him the reactions of his sinful activities. His ill-gotten wealth and possessions are taken by someone else, and he goes to the darkest regions of hellish life. One should not therefore accumulate more wealth than is allotted to him by destiny, otherwise he will be factually blind to his own interest. Instead of fulfilling his self-interest, he will act in just the opposite way for his own downfall. Akrura continued. My dear Dhritarashtra, I beg to advise you not to be blind about the fact of this material existence. Material conditional life, either in distress or in happiness, is to be accepted as a dream. One should try to bring his mind and senses under control and live very peacefully for spiritual advancement in Krishna consciousness. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is said that except for persons who are in Krishna consciousness, everyone is always in disturbed condition of mind and is full of anxiety. Even those who are trying for liberation or merging into the Brahman effulgence, or the yogis who are trying to achieve perfection in mystic power, cannot have peace of mind. Pure devotees of Krishna have no demands to make of Krishna. They are simply satisfied with service to him. Actually, peace and mental tranquility can be attained only in perfect Krishna consciousness. After hearing moral instruction from Akrura, Dhritarashtra replied, My dear Akrura, you are very charitable in giving me good instructions, but unfortunately I cannot accept it. A person who is destined to die does not utilize the effect of nectar, although it may be administered to him. I can understand that your instructions are very valuable. Unfortunately, they do not stay in my flickering mind, just as the glittering lightning in the sky does not stay in fixed cloud. I can understand only that no one can stop the onward progress of the Supreme Will. I understand that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, has appeared in the family of the Yadus in order to decrease the overburdened load of this earth. Dhritarashtra gave hints to Akrura that he had complete faith in Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. At the same time, he was very much partial to his family members. In the very near future, Krishna would vanquish all the members of his family, and in a helpless condition, Dhritarashtra would take shelter of Krishna's feet. In order to show his special favor to a devotee, Krishna usually takes away all the objects of his material affection. He thus forces the devotee to be materially helpless, with no alternative than to accept the lotus feet of Krishna. This actually happened to Dhritarashtra after the end of the battle of Kurukshetra. Dhritarashtra could realize two opposing factors acting before him. He could understand that Krishna was there to remove all the unnecessary burdens of the world. His sons were an unnecessary burden, and so he accepted that they would be killed. At the same time, he could not rid himself of his unlawful affection for his sons. Understanding these two contradictory factors, he began to offer his respectful obeisances to the Supreme Person of Godhead. The contradictory ways of material existence are very difficult to understand. They can only be taken as the inconceivable execution of the plan of the Supreme, who by his inconceivable energy creates the material world and enters into it and sets into action the three modes of nature. When everything is created, he enters into each and every living entity and into the smallest atom. No one can understand the incalculable plans of the Supreme Lord. After hearing this statement, Akrura could clearly understand that Dhritarashtra was not going to change his policy of discriminating against the Pandavas in favor of his sons. He at once took leave of his friends in Hastinapura and returned to his home in the kingdom of the Yadus. After returning home, he vividly informed Lord Krishna and Balaram of the actual situation in Hastinapura and the intentions of Dhritarashtra. Akrura was sent to Hastinapura by Krishna to study. By the grace of the Lord, he was successful and informed Krishna about the actual situation. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 48th chapter of Krishna, ill-motivated Dhritarashtra. Ribhu. So next one, this we're gonna read tomorrow, and then Krishna erects the Dwarka fort.
हरे कृष्णा प्रभु जी, धन्यवाद प्रणाम, जय श्री प्रभुपाद।
Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, can you ask a question?
How are you, Prabhu?
Really good. How are you, Prabhu? Are you traveling now or?
No, Prabhu, I reached Pondicherry temple.
Cool. If- like today?
Yes, Prabhu. Today
Oh,
1 p.m. I reached.
well, yes, very nice. Yes, I heard that you are traveling, so I was waiting that when you're gonna arrive.
Yes, Prabhu.
How was the journey? Was it really long journey?
It was long journey, and it's actually very excited and very much enthusiasm.
Yes, Prabhu. Yes, that sounded so nice.
I felt so nice, bro, because weather was too nice, and a whole
Hmm.
day there was raining,
Yes, Prabhu. Yes, auspicious signs.
and Ranchod Prabhuji come to receive me
Oh, yes.
from the bus station. And then Satyam Prabhu also met me in temple.
Oh, Haribol. Yes, Satyam Prabhu is also there. That's nice.
Yes, Prabhu. And here also two and three or four Mataji is also here.
Yes, Prabhu.
Mm.
Haribol.
And you know about Tejas,
Hmm.
who is famous for the chanting of Balarama.
Yes, Prabhu.
I met also them.
Haribol. Oh, yes, Prabhu. Yes. Now I remembered. The little baby. Haribol.
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes, and I think Himanshu Prabhu will also come in a few days.
Yes, Himanshu Prabhu boarded today,
Yes, Prabhu. Yeah, so soon
and
he's there. Haribol.
soon he will come here, and I will get them association,
Yes.
and
This,
Prahlad Prabhu will come on 5th of July.
yes, Prabhu. Yes, that will be really nice.
Yes, Prabhu.
That's really funny that you're receiving Prahlad Prabhu to the temple. You're there.
Yes, Prabhu.
Haribol.
Here is weather is so nice and everything is so nice, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu.
So, Prabhu, have you come from HKM to here? Like,
Yes,
from where?
Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu. He traveled all the way to Pondicherry.
From HKM. Jodhpur?
Yes, Prabhu. SKM Jodhpur.
Wow, wow, Prabhu. Wow, how is the prasadam, Prabhu?
Prasadam was too nice, Prabhu. Actually, in the afternoon, I got rice and chapati and curd and achar. Achar was too much sometime spicy, but it was too spicy, delicious.
Yes, Prabhu. Haribol. Mahaprasad ki jai.
And in the dinner prasadam, I got curd and sabji, chapati.
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu.
So, soon Ayappa Prabhu also might come, I heard. So, let's see.
Ayappa Prabhu.
Yes, hopefully he also comes.
He's in Tirupati right now, I think.
Hope he will. They will come.
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu.
So, Prabhu,
I'm waiting to meet all the devotees.
Haribol. Yes,
that's
also, yeah, I'm also waiting for all the videos and what you're gonna do. Haribol.
And I'm waiting for you. When will you come?
Yes, Prabhu. Yes, hopefully.
When will you come to India? Actually, our temple is under construction.
Yes, Prabhu. Yes, I'm trying to come.
My place if you come now.
Yes, Prabhu.
Haribol. Now we can sing Six Astakam.
Yes, Prabhu.
चेतोदर्पणमार्जनं भवमहादावाग्निर्वापनं श्रेयः कैरवचन्द्रिका वितरणं विद्यावादुजीवनम् आनन्दं बुद्धिवर्धनं प्रतिपदं पूर्णामृतस्वादनं सर्वात्मा स्नपनं परं विजयते श्रीकृष्णसङ्कीर्तनम्
Okay. नाम नाम अकारी बहुधा निज सर्व शक्ति तत्र पिता नियमितः स्मरणे न कलह एतादृशी तो कृपा भगवान ममापि दुर्दैवं दुर्दैवम् ईदृश्यम् इह जानी मनुराग्रह नानुग्रह
तृणादपि सुनिश्चयेन तरोरपि सहिष्णुना मानिना मानदेन
न धनं न जनं न सुन्दरीं कवितां वा जगदीश कामये मम जन्मनि जन्मनीश्वरे भवतात् भक्तिरहैतुकी त्वयि।
अय नंद तनुज किंकरम पतिताम मम विषामे भवम बुधानु कृपया तव पाद पंकजा स्थित धूलि सदृशं विचिन्तया
नयनं गलादश्रुधारया वदनं गद्गदा हृदयागिरा पुलकैर्निजितं वपुकदा तव नाम गृहिणे भविष्यति।
युगायितं निमेषेण चक्षुषा प्राविर्शायितं शून्यायितं जगत्सर्वं गोविन्द विरहेण मे।
असल अश्लीवा पदव्रताम पिनास्तु माम अद्रसानाम मर्म हताम करोतु वा यथा तथा वा विधातु लंपटो मत प्राणनाथास्तु सा एव नृपः।
रिवो
Translation. Glory to the Sri Krishna Sankirtana, which cleanses the heart of all that has accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life, of repeated birth and death. This Sankirtana movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large because it spreads the rays of benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss and it enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious.
O Lord, O my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benediction to the living entities, and thus you have hundreds and millions of the names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names, you have invested all your transcendental energies. There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of the kindness, you enable us to easily approach you by your holy names. But I am so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them.
One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw in the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respects to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly.
O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your costless devotional service.
O son of Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor. Yet somehow or other, I have fallen into the ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atom at your lotus feet.
O my Lord, when will my eyes be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? When will my voice choke up, and when will the hairs of my body stand on end at the recitation of your name?
O Govinda, feeling your separations, I am considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I am feeling all vacant, and the world in your absence.
I know no one.
But Krishna is my Lord, and he shall remain. So even if he handles me roughly by his embrace or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me, he is completely free to do anything and everything. For he is my worshipful Lord, unconditional.
Ribo, Sastakam ki jai, Harinam Sankirtan ki jai, Panchatattva ki jai, Nityananda Prabhu ki jai, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai, Jagat Bhaktivedanta Swami Shila Prabhupada ki jai, Jai Gaura Premanande, Hari Hari Bol.